Hello everyone. Today I have a special guest and we're going to talk about why good guys and gals need guns. My guest today is Terry Jones. He is a military veteran, combat veteran, and he also is retired from the Sheriff's Department. He worked with me at the Sheriff's Department, and that's how I met him. And we're both retired now. And he's done a lot of stuff. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Terry, thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure, Gary. Like I said, my name is Terry Jones. I've done over 24 years active duty and reserve time, 11 years with the Army, both active and reserve. I've done 13 years with the Coast Guard, most of which in a port security unit. I've had multiple overseas deployments to include Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, Operation Southern Watch, Operation Northern Lights. I've been to 9/11 with the port security units and multiple Homeland Security operations as well, Gary.
And with the Sheriff's Department, you did a lot of things. You were actually an instructor for me for many things and for all of us. And can you tell some of the things you did at the Sheriff's Department as far as training goes?
Yeah, Gary. When I was with the Sheriff's Department, I was a field training officer. I was a firearms instructor. I was a defensive tactics instructor. I was a taser instructor. I was an adjunct instructor at Polk State College to teach new recruits coming along. I had multiple training opportunities within the Sheriff's Department. I was also a DDT, which is Detention Disturbance Team / SWAT team. I was an operative with them for over almost 5 years.
Now, just so you folks out there know, also we trained a couple of times a year. Once a year at the courthouse.
Yes.
On how to sweep a building and how to go for an active shooter. And we also did the same training at the training center at the building out there. Terry was also part of that group that helped teach us how to go straight to the active shooter. And we always appreciated your help and training, Terry. And I was thinking of you when I had some requests. I've had several people say, can you tell us about why we need good guys and gals with guns? Why do we need proficiency training? Why do we need to know safety of weapons? And I thought about you. So, folks, before we get started in those areas, though, I want to get a few statistics out. Terry, we're going to talk about good guys and gals now. About how many people do we have approximately in our military service today?
I mean, it was like 1.3 million active duty troops give or take a little bit at this time. And about 8,005, give or take a little bit of reserve components available.
Right. And we also have, besides those active duty and reservists in the military, we have sworn law enforcement in the United States. Approximately, these are all approximately, folks, 800,000 sworn law enforcement. And number of correctional officers is about 392,000. Now, for those of you, we understand corrections is law enforcement. We have a lot of dual certified in corrections. But when it comes to the numbers and statistics, they're still separating sworn law enforcement on the road from correctional officers. Now, we also have another group of folks, Terry, that carry weapons, and they are registered hunters. About how many of them do we have?
There's over 15 million hunters in the United States, Gary.
And 15 million is actually almost as much as our active duty military.
It's a little bit more, but yeah, you are correct.
Yeah. Now, size of the U.S. Military, and I think you did say, didn't you say 1.3 million?
About 1.3 million.
Yeah, we have 1.3 million active and 800,000 reserves. So, you know, you add all these folks together, military branches, all the military branches, your law enforcement, your corrections, your hunters. These are all people that we typically don't find on the news, typically. Now, every barrel has bad apples, but typically you don't find this group as the ones that are going in and doing the shooting and all these shootings at these schools.
That is correct, Gary, for the simple fact that they've had training. Training does not leave the mind and the body. They are trained as far as safety, firearm safety, things to do, things not to do.
And why is it so important that we have good guys and gals carrying weapons in our country today?
Well, first off, it's our Second Amendment right, which that is what it is. But like I said before, they are trained. They respect it. They've gone through the training. They understand it, that a weapon or a gun is nothing more than a tool. It's nothing more than a wrench to a mechanic, or a spatula to a chef, a gun to a person, or a pocket knife in a cowboy. It's nothing more than a tool. Tools do not work unless they are activated to work. People are the ones that make that tool work.
Exactly. And I do want to throw one more statistic out. Now, we talked about active duty military. In the U.S., approximately, there's 17.4 million veterans. You know, we're not active anymore. No. We both were in the military, but we're not active anymore. So now you take your veterans in the U.S., it's 17.4 million. That's a lot of numbers. But what is strange when we say all these millions of people with weapons, as of January 2022, the American Gun Facts put out an article saying that we still only have about 32% of Americans reportedly owning a gun. Approximately comes to 81.4 million Americans carry a gun. Now, there's a Gallup report that says it's 44%. So your studies will vary between 32 and 44% of the American population with weapons. Either way, these are the ones that legally have guns, not the underground
Absolutely.
Criminals. And what have you told people, like as a motto of why it's better to have good guys with guns?
Gary, it's the simple fact that if you sleep well at night, sleep very well at night, knowing that there are warriors willing to go into harm's way to protect you, your country, and your way of life, that's usually a good guy with a gun. He's there to protect you. Like I said, your country, your way of life. I don't know how else to pretty much say it, but that's the way it is. I mean, good guys with guns.
And I'll preface that with an example. You know, the 22-year-old Elijah Dicken in Indiana at the mall.
Yeah. Right.
The shooter, the 20-year-old shooter, did kill 3 people, I think injured a couple of others before he could get to them. But his quick reaction and being a good guy with a weapon, legal weapon, got that weapon from 40 yards is what they're saying.
10 rounds from 40 yards, and I believe it was under 8 to 10 seconds.
And 8 hits.
8 to 10, yes, 8 confirmed hits.
And
yes.
What's really surprising, the chief of police down there, they're commending him. He has no military background, no police background, but he kept his composure and was tactically proficient. Is that
Correct.
The word we want to use?
That for not having an elusive or extensive training and background, other than his training to legally and carry that firearm or that weapon. Bravo, kudos to him. Good job. He got off 8 confirmed hits from 40 yards away. The normal standing for a firearm is 25 yards and less for a handgun, and this was from 40 yards out. So,
and that's what we
commendable.
That's what we always train at, correct? 25 yards up.
25 yards up. That's absolutely right.
So it is commendable, and we need good guys like that out there. We're not even going to talk about this because we're not going to Monday morning quarterback the Uvalde, Texas shooter incident. I am going to say this. This is from me. That we should have had Elijah Dicken at the Uvalde shooting, and it might have been over a lot quicker. I'll just throw that in there.
I'll just leave it as that there were some tactical improficiencies within that incident, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Right.
From my professional tactical standpoint of view, there were multiple inefficiencies and ineffective. We'll leave it at that.
And while we're on that topic, before we jump to the firing range and how you work the firing range, why is it so important, and our agency and our sheriff, why is it so important to make sure and get it in the heads of our officers Go to the active shooter. Don't wait. Why is that important?
Well, Gary, just like same thing, when I was training, when I went to CQB school and whatever, and I helped train us there at the range and at the courthouse. Why go to the range, or why go to the shooter? You have to neutralize the subject, neutralize the threat. There again, to provide safety both for your person and the public. Is that not what we're here for? That's our job.
I said the same thing. I was a guest on the Tier Talk with Anthony Ganji, and he had an expert from New York talking about, the Uvalde.
Right.
And, everybody was trying to be polite and not Monday morning quarterback. But I said the same thing. It's funny, and I hadn't talked to you about this until now. I said, what are we there for? Why else are we there? We're not there to stand around.
No.
We're there to go to the shooter, not stand around and wait.
I believe it says, within our agency that we retired from, to serve and protect. My job is to protect you. I protect the citizens, but whether it be from a man with a gun, a bad guy with a gun, or as when we were bailiffs, to protect my judge, whoever I was, the dignitary I was responsible for the day. My job is to protect you. I serve and protect. If you can't serve or protect, you might want to check your line of work.
What's that saying we used to say in the military? Lead or get out of the way?
Lead or get out of my way.
Don't stand there and wait. Go.
Yeah.
But enough of that. We won't discuss Uvalde anymore, but I just had to get that in there somewhere. When you see a young kid like this, take care of it. Oh, I guess I have to say one more thing. There was a mother that left her work, and they handcuffed her for a second over there at Uvalde because she wanted to go in and get her kids. Now, we understand why they did that.
Correct. Her in that instance, most likely her personal safety.
That's for her personal safety.
Her personal safety.
But she did tell them something and convince them to uncuff her, and then she ran in and got her kids. And then we have the Border Patrol agent who was getting a haircut and was off duty, and he heard about it. He looked at the barber and said, "Do you have a weapon?" And he went. And
I believe his wife was one of the
teachers. Right?
Yes.
But either way, we have these people off duty and mothers and going straight to the shooter.
Warriors that are willing to go into harm's way to protect you, your country, your way of life.
Good guys and gals.
Good guys or gals with guns.
And that's when I see that happen, and then I see how long they took, that bothers me. So I had to get that in there. We'll leave that alone now. Terry, when you were a firearms instructor, tell us why it is so important, if you're going to carry a gun, why is it important for proficiency and safety?
Proficiency and safety. I'm sure remember that I got shot in the line of duty in a training accident. I'm living proof of what to do and what not to do. I had a rookie on the line doing a night shoot. I won't get into names, I won't give numbers and all like that, but he pulled his weapon out of the ground, put his finger on the trigger, and pulled the trigger because he was so worried about trying to activate the light underneath his firearm. Stop and think about this. Why was he that? He was improficient with his weapon. He was scared of it. He didn't have enough training to be able to feel comfortable with that weapon, to be able to pull that weapon out, activate the light, and push forward. He came straight out of the holster, fired a round off. It hit the concrete, ricocheted off into my lower left leg, which is still there to this day. That is a prime example of inefficiency of training.
And for you folks out there, our sheriff's department qualified once a year. But what they did is, now when you qualify once a year, the firearms instructors are there to keep the line tight, safety and control. But what the sheriff did, he offered unlimited amounts of times that you could go out to the range on your own. As a deputy, you should have enough intestinal fortitude and forethought to take some time and advantage of that and go out and practice on your own. It's not the sheriff, and it's not just the firearms instructor's responsibility. It's actually...
It's that individual individual officer. And Gary, it's a nasty 6-letter word. It's called effort. Effort to train. You have to have that mindset to train. Because if you carry a gun every day for a living, you need to be proficient with it. Once a year, when it comes time for qualification, it doesn't cut it. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, I've had officers go there one time a year, expect to qualify. They miss. They're given 3 opportunities to qualify. After that, they hand in their badge and their bond card. They are suspended. I'll see you the next day, or another range instructor will see. It's usually another range instructor because we don't like to put
the same
we don't like to put same instructors back to back. You'll see another instructor that morning for a minimum of 8 hours remediation of firearms training on your own time, on your own dime.
Right, that is on your own time, because it's your responsibility as an officer to go out and practice. So why should it be the agency's responsibility to pay you when you can't shoot? I don't know any nice way to say it. If you can't shoot, it's not the agency's fault. They gave you all year long free ammunition and a free range.
And within the bailiff section, we had my wife, who was retired as well as a firearms instructor. We would go out every Friday afternoon after court or what have you and give you the opportunity. It was put out a briefing that morning. Hey, we're going to be out at the firing range this afternoon. Anybody who wants to practice, come on out.
Well, I could attest to that because I work, with Terry, and we would be working, and you'd hear over the radio, everyone be advised, Terry Jones and Teresa Jones will be on the range today from such and such a time to such and such a time. You can go out there and practice. You can't make it any more clear than that.
And like you said, Gary, the ammunition was free. The range fees, free. Targets, free. All it took was effort for you to get in your car, drive to the range, and practice.
But how many times, we know which ones went to practice.
Oh, absolutely.
But how many do we know of, and we won't mention names, that were like, I'm going home, man. I can't wait to get home, and forget about the practice. And then when they didn't qualify,
let me have your badge and your bond card.
Yep. And then they would complain.
I've literally had officers, both male and female, standing there start crying.
Yeah.
Literally crying because I personally had to take their bond card and their badge.
And their weapon.
And their weapon.
The weapon gets turned in. You can't have that weapon back.
We lock it back in the Army until you prove yourself through remediation that you are tactically proficient and safe with that weapon, and that you know what you're doing, and that you can hit a target and engage a target.
So the point we're trying to drive across here, folks, is whether you are an officer, you're in the military, or just a good guy and gal, civilian, with a concealed weapons permit, it's so important to practice safety and get proficient with your weapon. Now, Terry, at one time you were teaching certification for concealed weapon. Yeah. At one time, you don't do that now, but
no, I still do, Gary. I remember. I still teach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I still teach. I teach private lessons. I teach one-on-ones, both long gun and or pistol. I teach concealed carry tactics, and my biggest thing as far as safety and proficiency, as long as what you know what you're doing with that thing. Yes, I still teach. I still have a NRA instructor number.
Well, then, would you tell the folks that are not in the military, not in law enforcement, why they should carry a gun? Why you believe, if they feel comfortable with it, why they should get that concealed weapons?
If you've had the training, whether through myself or any other hundreds and hundreds of other training opportunities, I don't care who it are, but if you're willing and want the training and the knowledge and the know-how, please, folks, go get it. Because this is, if I can't say anything, it's this right here. It's not a matter of if something is going to happen, it's when. And I believe the last 6 months in this great country of ours, it has proven that. And I'll say this, Gary, on top of that. Those guns just didn't get up and walk themselves into Uvalde. They didn't walk into the mall in Indiana. They didn't walk into Washington last night outside of Seattle. They had an incident just last night. All right? That gun didn't just get up and walk itself. That's bad people with guns. We're talking about good people, training good people to be proficient, to be safe, and to exercise their Second Amendment right to carry that weapon. Because like I said, Gary, it's not a matter of if something's going to happen, it's when.
And, just like you said, is it your church this Sunday? you know, it's bad. We don't want this to happen, but is it your church this Sunday? Is it the grocery store you go to next week? Is it the school that your child goes to? We pray that this stops, but folks, I don't like it when some people say it's the guns, it's the guns. It's just so ridiculous to me when I hear that.
It's not the guns, it's the people. People are the problem, not the guns.
It's mental health, yes, I will agree. Some of
Yes.
these folks have mental health issues, and we don't know why it's running so rampant now that with the guns for the mental health people. It's not keeping your weapons secure. That's another thing. Some of these kids that have been doing the shootings have gotten weapons from their parents and stuff.
Correct.
Let's talk about securing the weapons at home.
Securing the weapons at home. If you have underage kids, toddlers, whatever, you need a safe, whether it's a combination safe or what they call a biometric safe. You put your hand in and it reads your fingerprints or what have you. You need to lock that weapon up. Put it up on a shelf, up out of the way to where you and your significant other know where it is for your protection at all times. But it needs to be away to where the children of the house cannot get to it. And here in Florida, it's against the law. If that child gets that gun that they find out that was unsecured, you bought it.
Yep. And it's also not just the mental health, but it's the criminal element. You know, let's put more gun laws in place. Well, you know what? There's a lot of gun laws in place that only allow people who pass the background check and have a clear background to get the weapon. It's that underground criminal element. And Terry, you know as well as I do, anybody that can't get a gun legally can get a gun underground.
Gary, in fact, it through my resources of people that I know, and we both associate, like you mentioned, it's actually easier to get a gun or a weapon through the underground or black ops than it is to go down to your local, let's say, Rural King or whatever store to go through the process to get one. It's easier to get one through the black market.
So, with that said, you could take away the guns from all these millions of people I just discussed, hunters, military, law enforcement, good guys and gals, civilians that want to carry a gun. You could take them away from all of us. Now what have you done? You've disarmed the people who are going to protect you.
You disarmed the good people, the 17.4 million veterans that are out there. I mean, you're trying to disarm us, the good people.
And now the criminal element has exactly what they want. They can go, like they're doing in California, and bust through the stores right in front of the storekeeper and laugh at them and leave with stolen goods. They can riot and bust things up. And you're trying to take away protection.
Well, same thing. Did you hear about the July 4th weekend in Chicago, in Illinois?
Yeah.
Illinois is one of the most strictest
Gun.
states, gun laws in the country. But yet there were 54 shootings and 17 deaths in a 72-hour period over the July 4th weekend.
And I think the most strict gun law in this country is, if not...
They're one of the top three.
One of the top three. Okay.
California, Illinois, New York.
And look who is doing the most killings.
I
But
rest my case.
why can't people understand this? But, you know...
All the laws that you want to put that are even on the books now, does that stop the criminals from breaking these laws now?
No.
And even though you put more laws on the books, is that really helping? No, because what you're doing is stopping the good guy from getting his gun and making it more difficult for him or her.
Home invasion, home robbery, burglary, that's against the law. But the bad guys are still doing it.
Absolutely.
But thank goodness, have you heard lately some of the news? I think the last 2 or 3, the homeowner was able to shoot and kill them.
Yes.
Now that's good, because you don't come in my home while I'm asleep at night and try to rob me and harm my family.
If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe one of them was a teenage girl with a long gun platform stopped 2 invaders trying to get in there, and not only to rob the house, but possibly sexually assault her.
I was just going to say, the poor girl, had she not had that weapon, they probably would have not just robbed the house.
Correct.
They would have assaulted her.
Yes.
And who knows what? A lot of these dirt bags, and I don't care about saying it on my channel, a lot of these dirt bags will not only sexually assault her, they would kill her, so she can't be a witness.
That's unfortunately true, Gary. You are right.
we're just trying to bring out points today, and we're not going to be much longer, but I think we've hit on a lot of reasons why we need good guys and gals with guns. We've given a few examples, like the girl with the home invasion, like the young man at the mall who saved lives, of why we need good guys and gals with guns. And, and the Second Amendment, of course, backs all that up.
And if I can't say anything else, and like I told you before on my incident that happened to me, that I'm living proof of this is to drive home the number one safety saying or act that you can do when handling a firearm. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to engage. That's the number one safety thing, because that is what happened in my case of how the individual was preemptive. He put his finger on the trigger, come up out of the holster, popped a round off. It ricocheted off and caught me in the leg. He put his finger on the trigger. That is how you maintain weapon safety. Number one rule, Gary. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to engage.
And what's another thing that we've seen that a lot of people don't do? Listen.
Well,
listen to your instructions.
They listen. As when I was range master, I'd be in the tower calling commands. I had 4 other instructors on the line. My job is to oversee my 4 instructors, but also to oversee the entire line of 20 shooters. Another thing that people have done, we call it blading. I personally have tackled officers on the line who are supposed to be proficient, but yet they're blading and swinging that gun all over the place.
A loaded
loaded firearm.
Yep.
Negative. I have personally tackled them, taken it away from them. I said, I'll see you tomorrow.
And I'm going to tell you, management, I won't mention any names, don't worry. But I have seen personally where someone failed for the 3rd time and you had to collect their weapon and their card and so forth.
Many years of doing that.
And someone in management would say, why did you not qualify them? And I have to think, when I hear that question, that's got to be the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Because you didn't disqualify them, they disqualified themselves.
My job is not to qualify that officer. That officer there is to qualify themselves. My job is to maintain 2 things: a safe range and make sure that you go home at the end of the day. That's my job.
And if you don't practice throughout the year and you go out there and can't qualify, don't blame your firearms instructor. Don't blame the department you work for. It's your responsibility.
I believe they called it when we were senior NCOs in the military.
Yeah.
Here, I believe it's called the 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah.
I'll let you figure out the other word for that.
Yeah. But and absolutely, and a lot of that military stuff carries over into our paramilitary law enforcement agencies.
Yes, it does, Gary.
But okay, folks, we've covered a huge area in a short period of time. We don't want to drag it on forever. I think we hit the high points. I think that we got our point across. Please put your comments below. If you disagree with anything, as you know, I've always been one to leave your comment there. I'll answer you professionally. If you disagree with anything we said, please be professional about it, because if you come back with F words and things, then I will block you. But other than that, if you don't agree with me, I leave it on there. I've always have. And I think that's only right. If I'm going to present something to you with a guest, you have the right to either agree or disagree. Let us know what you think. Terry, I want to thank you very much for being here today.
Appreciate it, Gary.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
To the country and community.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care and subscribe. True Prison Stories.